Stephanie.
Hi, Carol.
It's nice to see you
Nice
again.
to see you too.
How have you been?
I've been well.
Good.
I went to California to see my family last weekend,
Wow.
and it was really, really fun and lots of togetherness, but there was this incident that took place at the family party that was really upsetting to me in the moment, and I just have been trying to let it go, but it still kind of sticks with me. So my cousin, who's a few years older than I am, she has 2 kids. They're 15 and one is in 6th grade, so I think he's 11. And her mom is my dad's sister, so my aunt. And they have always had this really tumultuous relationship, really kind of like verbally abusive. And
Are you talking about your dad and his sister?
no, I'm sorry, my aunt and her daughter.
Okay.
So my aunt and my cousin.
Okay, got it.
And so my cousin has had some issues with addiction, and there's some complex kind of family dynamics. Like, her daughter now lives with her mom, my aunt, but she still has custody of her son. So my cousin, who has had addiction problems, has custody of her son. She's working through those now. But there was this altercation between my aunt and my cousin at the family party. My cousin is very physically weak right now. She's walking with a cane. She just has, her addiction has really manifested itself in her physical appearance, and that's really heartbreaking to see.
Yes.
And so my aunt had a little too much to drink, and at one point everybody was just sitting around in their little, like, wherever groups, having nice calm conversation, and then my aunt just starts screaming out of nowhere at my cousin, and like, I didn't see it happen, but she like knocked her to the ground. And then
Your aunt
yes
knocked her daughter?
yes
Ooh.
And so then she's like still yelling at her while she's on the ground. And so everybody's kind of like interfering at this point, like trying to get them away from each other. So my cousin is like trying to just leave the situation. She's trying to get out of the house. So she goes out the front door, and my aunt is like chasing after her, screaming at her like about what her ex-husband said about her, or something like, he's trying to turn you against me, and all of this like stuff that she's just like screaming. And my cousin's just like, I can't do this right now, I'm leaving. And her little boy had, like, at the first onset of this fight, gone out of the house and sat in the car. So my cousin gets to the car, but then my aunt is like chasing her out of the house, and like chases her to where like she's yelling at her while she's sitting in the front seat of her car, like trying to get away. And her little son is sitting there next to her, and he's just like listening to them screaming at each other. And it was just so ugly and just like raw emotion with no self-awareness whatsoever, no regard for this little boy who's sitting in the front seat. And so I ended up like getting involved by pulling him out of the car and being like, hey, do you want to come sit with me? Like, it's probably pretty scary when the adults around you are just screaming at each other. And he's like, yeah. And they have labeled him as being autistic, which like I don't think that he is. They're just like, oh, he's autistic, this and that, saying all, like, labeling him as having some sort of deficit. But like when I speak to him, he's perfectly aware of what is happening. And I think that he's probably just trying to defend himself from the emotional trauma of being around this kind of fighting.
Wow, that's a lot, Stephanie.
Yes.
So you felt like you were having a good trip in California, seeing your family, and everything was good, and then all of a sudden your cousin and her mom just kind of explode and really just affect the whole family dynamic. And on top of that, you're seeing that this little boy is getting maybe misdiagnosed and having to deal with so much drama that probably doesn't feel healthy to you or to him. And when you see that, that is probably a very upsetting feeling for you.
Yeah, it was really upsetting, and just made me really feel so sad for him and the kind of like example that is being set for him. And so yeah, it was just really kind of surprising and out of nowhere, and I did the best that I could to handle it, and you know, ended up sorting things out as far as my relationship with like my aunt and stuff, because she tried to talk to me about it afterwards and I wouldn't have it. And I was like, we can talk about this later. And we did. I wrote her an email and we sorted through it, and she apologized and everything. But I just am really worried for the little boy. He's like my second cousin, I guess.
So, and tell me again how old he is.
He's in 6th grade.
6th grade, okay.
Yeah.
So around 11 or so you said. Okay. So it sounds like you're just very concerned about him and wondering what you can do even to help him, what more you could have done, or what he needs, and you're concerned about the environment that he's living in.
Yes.
It sounds like you really did the right thing by walking away from that situation while your aunt was still intoxicated, and you realized that she probably couldn't, it wasn't going to be good.
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did just walk away. I think that was a really wise decision on your part, because it sounds like, well, when people drink, it's not the best time to have a rational conversation.
No.
It's not going to go anywhere.
That's the feeling I got in the moment, was that it would just make things worse, and I was already really triggered, and I know myself that when I speak out of that place, and I actually kind of she's like, let's talk about this now, and I was like, no, I'm mature enough to know that I shouldn't talk to people when I'm triggered. like throwing it in her face a little bit, but it still got the point across, and it didn't go any further than that.
Good for you. You spoke your truth in
Yeah.
the moment, and you had a lot of feelings, and you were aware of your feelings, and then you chose a wiser course to talk to her, email her later, and I'm glad you smoothed those out. That probably feels good, but I wonder if it also is making you think about your overall family dynamics, that this kind of thing happened when your family was together. Is that a new situation?
No, it's not. This person in my family has always kind of, it's not really a shock. I just never saw firsthand how it was affecting my cousin, who grew up with her as her mother. I never really I don't know, like I saw it at varying degrees through the course of growing up, but never like so just like on, I don't know, never so elevated. And then it just really activated the part in me that's concerned for like the safety of children. I think because I'm working with kids in my internship right now, and we do a lot of work around like their emotional safety, and try to be, you know, adults that set the example for what it looks like to speak kindly and you know, say, don't use hurtful language, and so to see somebody that was close to me, it doesn't matter actually so much who they were, it was just to see that dynamic playing out with like this child present, where his emotional safety was not considered in the slightest, that really like made me super upset. And I think because he is family, that's what activated my desire to like, or my question, like, what more can I do? But I live so far away, and it's hard not to insert myself to a degree, but I really don't think it's appropriate either to do so.
Right. So you're tying all your learning and your internship experiences to observing and processing what you saw happen with this little boy, and you understand how traumatic it probably is for him, and really the damage that kind of it's a neglect and almost an abuse maybe, to see that with his in that relationship with your aunt, And so that really has caused you, it sounds like, to feel upset and to want to help. And then what to do is the question, because he's so far away.
Right.
And is it even appropriate for you to help out or step in, or...
Exactly.
Those are really good questions to explore.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know, it's tough, but it helped to talk about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
Did I do it? Oops.